The story of James and Two Deep is not just about distance and reunion. It is about the power of love to survive storms, the resilience of ordinary people when faced with extraordinary challenges, and the way faith can be reborn in tears. A morning like any other. The first drops of rain tapped gently against the old tiled roof. Inside, Two Deep rose early, just as she always did. With steady hands she tied bundles of smoked pork into her basket, then woke little Nhi, her quiet shadow, her unexpected blessing, and led her toward the market. The day was long. Beneath the sagging canvas roofs, amid the noisy chorus of bargaining voices, Two Deep's soft call rose and fell. The girl clutched her hand, her wide eyes absorbing the rhythm of village life. It was a hard life, fragile, yet not without its glimmers of warmth. A stranger's kind smile, a neighbor pressing extra coins into her palm simply to help. By afternoon, the last of the meat was sold, the coins tucked carefully away. Holding Nyi's hand, Two Deep made her way to the quiet house that belonged to James's mother. The drizzle had left it looking lonely, but when the door opened, warmth spilled out like a blessing. The embrace of a waiting mother. James's mother greeted them with eyes that immediately softened at the sight of the little girl. "How precious she is," the woman whispered, stroking Nyi's hair. The child nodded shyly, answering questions about school and life with Two Deep. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Two Deep prepared rice and simple dishes. Soon, the air was thick with the scent of stir-fried meat and vegetables. At the table, laughter came easily. James's mother weaving stories about her son who was far away, working himself to exhaustion. Each time his name was spoken, Two Deep's heart ached in silence, though her lips never betrayed her longing. Then fate intervened. The phone rang. Two Deep's hands trembled when she saw the name, James. A voice across 1,000 kilometers, she answered, her voice barely above a whisper. And then came his voice, tired, but rich with warmth. "Two Deep," James said. "I am coming home. All the paperwork is finished. In just a few days, I'll be back in Vietnam." The words hung in the air. Two Deep gasped, her tears falling before she could form a reply. Beside her, James's mother reached eagerly for the phone. "Let me hear him," she whispered, her own voice breaking as she cried, "James, my son, you are really coming back?" On the other end of the line, James smiled through the distance. "Yes, Mother. It has been far too long." "I'm coming home, to both of you." In that small room, with rain falling softly outside, 3 lives were bound together again by longing and love. Faith, once tested by loneliness and uncertainty, was reborn in their tears, waiting for the day. The days that followed were filled with nervous sweetness. Two Deep could not sleep. Each night, after NHI had drifted off, she sat at the wooden table, staring at the lamp, imagining James stepping off the plane. Would his face be lined with weariness from the battles of the corporate world? Or would his eyes light up the instant he saw her? James's mother, too, was restless. She rose early, cleaning corners already spotless, preparing extra blankets, checking rice jars, as though a perfectly kept home could ease her son's return. Often, she touched the framed photograph of him in his business suit and whispered, "He is still my boy." The airport reunion. Finally, the day came. The airport was crowded, the air thick with overlapping voices and the rattle of rolling luggage. Too Deep stood in the midst of it all, her heart pounding so hard she felt it in her throat. NHI clutched her hand, eyes wide with curiosity. Beside them, James's mother steadied herself with her cane, her other hand resting firmly on Too Deep's shoulder. Then, across the hall, a familiar figure appeared. Tall, composed, yet weighed down by the years of distance and responsibility, James. For a heartbeat, he seemed a stranger. But then his gaze found Too Deep, and in an instant, everything dissolved. Too Deep, he breathed, her name like a prayer whispered through countless lonely nights. She froze, overwhelmed. But when NHI tugged her hand and whispered, "Is that Uncle James?" Too Deep broke. Tears spilled freely. She ran forward, casting aside hesitation and fear. James caught her, pulling her into his arms. The world blurred, the noise, the glances, the flight announcements. All that remained was the warmth of her against his chest, the scent of home in her hair. "I am here now," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I am home." When James saw his mother, he dropped everything, kneeling at her side. "Mother," he said, hoarse with emotion. She touched his face, traced the lines of fatigue, and through her tears smiled. "My son, you are thinner. But your eyes, they are the same. Happiness at the family table." That night, in the warmth of his childhood home, the family shared their first meal together in years. Too Deep served rice, James's mother offered carefully prepared dishes, and James, who had dined in luxury across the world, ate with the hunger of a man starved not for food but for love. Every bite, every laugh, every tear was proof. Happiness had returned. Yet even in joy, shadows lingered. James knew enemies were waiting. The company he had built was fragile, crumbling under sabotage and betrayal. But as he glanced at Too Deep, her smile lighting the room as she tucked food into Nee's bowl, he swore silently, "No matter what storms await, I will never let this be taken from me again." Shadows of the past. The days that followed were almost dreamlike. Mornings brought tea and sunrises. Evenings brought laughter and stories. But beyond their walls, whispers spread. The empire James had built was collapsing. Rivals circled. Investors pulled out. And at the center of it all was a name James had avoided for years, John. John, once his business partner, now a shadow pulling strings from the dark. John knew James was back in Vietnam. He knew about Too Deep. And he had not forgotten the betrayal that had torn them apart. One afternoon, while James was away in the city, Too Deep noticed a stranger at her market stall. Well-dressed, smiling coldly, he examined her pork without buying. "You must be Too Deep," he said casually. "Tell James. John sends his regards." Then he walked away, leaving only dread in his wake. That night, when James returned, Too Deep told him what had happened. His face darkened instantly. He gripped her hands. "If John is moving here, it means he wants more than the company. He wants to hurt me, and that means he might try to hurt you." Fear flickered in her eyes, but she lifted her chin. "I'm not afraid. I waited all these years, James. If storms are coming, then let them come. I will not leave you." He looked at her for a long moment, as though memorizing her courage. Then he pulled her close. "You are my strength. But promise me one thing. If it ever becomes too dangerous, you will protect yourself first." "I can fight John. But I cannot lose you." Lessons from their journey. The story of James and Too Deep is not just about distance and reunion. It is about truths hidden in the human heart. From their journey, 3 lessons emerge. Love that endures distance. Affection that survives separation is not weakened but made stronger by patience and trust. Resilience in adversity. True love is not about sharing only joy, but about shouldering pain together. Faith reborn in tears. Faith is not only in each other but in the path they walk. In their tears, faith found new life. And finally, their story reminds us that happiness is rarely found in wealth or power. It blooms in the simplest places: a shared meal, a child's laughter, a mother's embrace. These treasures, though invisible to the world, are worth more than gold.